The story of Moses was a story of the lawgiver who wore a disguise, who wore a veil, who wore a mask, you might say, who wore it for a good reason, because when he went up on Mount Sinai, he was exposed directly to the glory of God. In fact, it was so glorious that the writer of Exodus used the word in the original language, the original Hebrew. The word there was horns. It was a picture of like a cow growing horns, an animal growing horns out of its head. It was like the glory, shafts of brilliant glory light were just beaming out of his head, beaming out of his head, beaming out of his head in a way that the writer could not even describe, except to use something from nature that would just help best describe it. And oddly enough, thousands of years later, when the Bible was put into the more common language of mankind around the Middle Ages time, around 1500 or 1400, so forth in there, they translated it from the Hebrew and Greek into Latin, into what was called the Latin Vulgate. And there was a saint, St. Jerome, who did a lot of the translation. And he literally took that part of the Scripture where it says, "Behold, Moses' skin of his face shone," and literally wrote it, the skin on Moses' face began to protrude out like horns. The reason why I point that out is because, Mike and Yvonne, I don't know if you saw it in Rome, but go to that next slide, John. But in a cathedral in Rome, at one of the Pope's grave, did you see this? It was at one of these Pope's grave or something. There's a statue of Moses, and in the process of doing this statue, this beautiful statue of Moses, there was two major flaws. I'm going to show them to you. Flaw number one is on this next slide. When he said, "Will you not speak to me?" he was so angry at this creation that he had made, is that he threw his carver's mallet at the statue. It hit the knee and broke off a little bit of the knee right at that kneecap area. And so you see this flaw where the statue was broken apart. But there was another flaw in this statue. And Mike and Yvonne, I don't know if you caught it when you saw that, but if you've ever looked at encyclopedias or you see this picture of this statue in close-up, go ahead and go, Josh, to the next one. You see Moses with horns. But Michelangelo was taking this literal translation of Scripture. What they believed at that time, what St. Jerome had written, is that Moses' face shined to the point where he was growing horns out of his skin. And that's the rest of the story. That's why Michelangelo did it with horns. Now, of course, Moses was not growing horns. But it was these shafts of light all over from his being that was coming out. Michelangelo, you made two mistakes. You threw your hammer at the statue and you busted his knee. Can't repair it. And then you based your statue on a mistranslation of the Bible, and you gave poor Moses horns? Ha! But that statue's treasure. People will travel for miles to come see it and other things. It's priceless. You are flawed. You are imperfect. But you are priceless.